All
Oh,
right.
okay. Yeah,
Welcome,
that's fine.
everybody, to Resilient Voices and Beyond. I'm so excited for you guys to be joining us today. Um, I have a very special guest with me here today, and he holds a very special place in my heart. I have my cousin, Travis Davis, and he has been doing a lot of different things in the foster care community in Miami and so forth for years. He's seen my journey and so forth. Um, in the foster care system and even before I even got into the foster care system. So I'm excited for him to share a little bit more. And without further ado, because I'm so excited, I'm going to have him introduce himself to you guys.
All right. Hello, everybody. Again, as Michael said, my name is Travis Davis, and I'm from Miami, and I've kind of been in this field for a long time. I'm gonna just say, 20 years, to be exact, over 20 years probably. I kind of started out working in the field as a PI, like a child protection investigator. I started that and then moved up to case management on that side, case manager supervisor, and kind of went over on the mental health side, but always staying connected to the foster side because over 20 years ago, I became a foster parent. And throughout that time, up to date, like I've probably fostered, we go back and forth. I think I know, I'm gonna just say it's over 200 kids, over 200 kids. I know in over 20 years, at least
Wow.
200 kids. I started a page where I started writing the names down. And just when I think I'm getting there, like I'll find something, I'll be like, I'll find 5 or 10 more names. I'm like, wow, like unbelievable. 200 kids. I'm already at like, I'm at 200 now. So I know that's why I know it's over 200. So, kids that I fostered throughout the years. And I had the opportunity to adopt one of the kids I had. And that's a story in itself because
Mhm.
that wasn't the plan. But, that story, that's probably a podcast by itself, like a interview by
For
itself.
sure.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a rewarding experience. I don't regret it. I mean, my son and I are connected today. And, 3 months ago, I became a grandfather. So, we get along pretty good. And, so I always say, it was worth it. A lot of times, and I adopted him when he was kind of later. He was like 14. So most of the time, kids around that age, it's hard for them to be adopted. But,
Right.
there was something unique about him. So, like I said, I worked along the field and fostered for so long and just have always been connected. So I've done a lot. I mean, I get bored talking about the experiences that I've had because there's so much. I mean, you know, usually when I go and speak to like a class of new foster parents, I have the person who's teaching the class. They may be somebody I formerly worked with, a former colleague or something. They have to introduce me because they be like, "Oh, Travis Davis finds it hard to talk about himself," which I do. It's hard for me to talk about the journey because I believe it was a calling. So for
Hmm.
me, and I accepted it, and that's why it's really hard to kind of talk because when I talk about it, I feel like I'm getting exhausted just talking. So
Okay.
but it's a rewarding experience, and I don't regret my life and the path that God set forth before me. I don't regret it at all. So,
Okay. Thank you for
mhm.
that. Wow. Wow. I'm just thinking about that number of 200 or more,
Yeah,
200 and more foster youth that have been in your
yeah,
care. That is a
hmm
big number, and I'm pretty sure you've done a lot of seeds dropping and helping people just get some milestones going, and we're going to get into that. So um,
yes,
I'm pretty sure you got a chance to listen to some of my podcasts and so forth. So I like to dive a little bit deeper into the journey. So I guess I want to start with how did you get to um, the field of somewhat social work, being a CPS or child protective worker? Like, what was the steps from school to that? Like, was that originally your plan to
yeah.
do that, or did
It
something
it really
push you
was.
that way?
Yeah, it really wasn't. I mean, I thought like I would go into something like business, and I always said business or finance. And people used to tell me long ago, "You're going to be a preacher one day," and I was like, I don't see that, but So that was always in the back of my mind. But business and finance was my goal when I first went into college and when I got there. But I always knew I had a heart for helping. I've seen that in my family. I've seen it throughout my whole life. And I just knew that there was something rewarding when it came to helping. So some kind of way in the middle of there, like my second year, I looked into social work. So I decided to pursue social work. So I went and I graduated from FIU with a bachelor's in social work. And from there, that's where the journey kind of started. Immediately after college, I was hired with, it used to be called Children and Family Services here. And I started out on that level. And, that's the beginning of the journey. I even went into some teaching as well, because after a year of doing that, I went into teaching for like 3 years, working with special needs and the disabled population. So I had that experience and got to see a whole nother world on that side, that sometimes the world is really disconnected to because it's not like you see it every day. So that really humbled me. Like, I always consider myself to be a humble person, but that actually broke me down, like to see some of the conditions and also to kind of get past me and my feelings and my biases towards, individuals with disabilities. So, I've had some experiences that kind of like brought me to the realization that, hey, these are people too, and they could be helped, they could be taught, they can learn, they can rise above the disability. So, God knows, I mean, if I was, as much as I'm grateful for the fostering experience, that experience there taught me a whole lot. And it even carried me into today because in addition to everything I do, I kind of have a home for disabled adults. Who knew that experience would benefit me later on? So, but that's where I'm at along that journey. And once I did that and did a little teaching, I felt like I really wanted to go back into social work. So that's when I later became the investigator with DCF here in Miami. And doing that job, I always felt like for me, it was just very personal. I had a problem with me making a decision when it came to a situation where a kid was really at risk or there was like imminent abuse or neglect or whatever, I knew the law and everything. So it wasn't hard to make that decision. But there were some decisions I felt like, hey, with a lot of services and resources, we could have kept that family together. So, and I used to wrestle with that, like, wow, here I am making a decision and there's a whole family here. But, like, sometimes the families, they don't want to get involved because sometimes they have past histories and everything, and everybody just kind of go off into their shell. So I couldn't do it long. I did it 1 year and I felt like I would be a better service as a case manager versus the PI. So, and that was the turning point of where I kind of decided to become a foster parent while, doing case management. So like as a case manager, I mean, you have, the kids and they share a lot of what they go through in the homes. And I used to have kids that complain. They would say, my foster parent, when we eat, like we have to eat outside and they eat at the table. And then they used to talk about the different meals, like the foster parents would have one meal, they would have a different meal. And I couldn't believe that. I was like, there's no way a person could be a foster parent and would give kids something different. And lo and behold, I found that to be true. And I was like, no, I think I'm gonna go into this. I'm gonna look into this. I'm gonna become a foster parent. So that was like 1999, I think, when I became a foster parent. And it's been a journey. I started out with teens, and right now I'm at the age of like no teens right now. But you know what? Hey, it depends. I have the philosophy if I can work with you, if you are willing to meet me halfway and we can work together, you can be 17. I'll work with you, but you have to be willing to work with me. I mean, I understand. I'll give you time to get past your anger, all that you carry, because I know you carry a lot. But if you're willing to work with me, then hey, I'm here for you. I'm pretty connected here. And, one thing any kid that has been in my home can always say, like, they've always had everything that, in terms of things that they need. Like, as far as as far as going home or having visits and things like that, that's another story. But as far as me, providing what I needed to provide, I always tell kids I'm gonna do my job 100 plus, but you have a job as well. And, if you do your job, we can work on this part and the system, we can actually work on that as well together. So it's kind of like been the journey.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say like that, you dropped a lot of nuggets there. and forgive me if I mess up the terminology, you know, I'm here in Michigan. So we call our systems and so forth a little bit different.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was, you know, you went from, you know, teaching and doing work there and working with, you know, working essentially in like the mental health arena with, you know, disabled people and so forth. And then you went into more social work as a PI, you know, working at, you know, essentially as child protective services and so forth, and then case management. That, you know, you know that man, I just want to, you know, commend you for your work, you know, and your service to the community. You've done a lot, you know, and that's admirable. And then you went to open your home, you know, the 200 plus people, you know, and then one thing you said to me that, you know, we don't hear a lot about. You started with teens. Like you, it wasn't that you gradually, like you started with teens.
I went straight in,
and we, you know, and as well as I know, the stigma surrounding around teen fostering and adoption and so forth. Even with my own personal story, you know, I spent most of my time in residentials when I went into the foster care system because I was past the age, you know, of people wanting to adopt me or foster me and so forth. You know, I faced a lot of stigmas being a Black male in the foster care system. You know, some of the stigmas I faced were, you know, because I was on the juvenile side before the foster care side, that I may be violent. You know, I may have behavior issues. You know, so many different things, and I'm like, well, I've been through some stuff. So if I got behavior issues, you know, it's rightly so. But I wanted to be in a place where that environment was safe. And for me, fortunately, you know, my family, we had a lot of different things going on, and foster care essentially saved my life. Like I personally didn't see myself getting past 16 or 18. You know, you know a little bit about Detroit and in the neighborhood. Like you know, I remember waking up, and I said it's another podcast. I remember waking up and seeing people that were on drugs getting beat up by their drug dealer every Saturday. I mean, every Saturday, going to sleep to gunshots, you know, trying to be cool with the drug dealer so they don't try to get you into the game and so forth, walking to school. And so when I got into the foster care system, it saved my life. So I just want to say I commend you for all the effort that you've done for all those teenagers who have passed through your life and through your house and so forth, and all the things that you have done to help and better, you know, their lives and so forth. Now, I kind of want to get into that journey as a foster parent a little bit more for the listeners and so forth. I'm pretty sure you face a lot of behavior issues, a lot of self-sabotaging, a lot of trying to reunify with family, run away, and different things and stuff like that. I kind of want to touch on your experience with that and how you dealt with that and approached it. If you could provide any kind of, you know, background with that, and also advice and tidbits for the listeners too that may be thinking about fostering teens or are fostering teens.
Yeah, I mean, what I found, and I'll start with runaway because that was a big issue, like for me, you know, with teenagers and running away or stand out way past curfew, and here it is, like, you know, and I would tell them, I would say, hey, we gotta, you know, you have to have some consideration here, you know. I always, you know, I have a job I have to go to the next day, and I want to get proper rest. You know, I'll give you, you know, I say, what is it that you want? I've even tried to compromise with some. First of all, tell me, what is it you're going out there to do? You know, like I've had some say, oh, I just spend time with my girlfriend, or I'll go over here and spend time with my cousins or whatever. Okay, let's talk about that. You know, why is it that you can't start coming at this time so that you'll make it at this time? You know, and there's some you can work with that, you know, you can work with on that level, but there's some who just going to be defiant and just, you know, just because, you know, they just going to come, you know, midnight or after midnight. But I always took time out and we would have a conversation when I opened that door. You know, you got to sit down and we talk, you know, hey, what's up? You just did this the second or the third night, and this can't be happening. I need you to kind of meet me halfway. What you gonna do to work with me on this? And then I say, be honest with me. If you just can't do it, then we just need to make a decision. I mean, because if you just can't follow this, because I say, do you think it's right? I say, look at my face. I look sleepy. I'm tired. I need some rest. I mean, I consider you. I let you sleep as late as you need to. I make sure you have everything you need. I need you to do your part in this. There were some, young people who would, say, you know what, Mr. Davis, I'm gonna try hard, and those were the ones that could stay longer, but the ones who say, man, I do my thing. I just, right then and there, I'm like, well, okay, clearly you're not willing to do your part, so we can't work this out. So, we had to make a decision, so, and I'll say, hey, I just want you to understand, because, I always had this other thing of kids saying foster parents kick them out, and I hate that. That bothers me. I'll be like, I always tell kids, Mr. Davis never kick anybody out. When you leave here, it's either because you're unified or you're aged out. Thank God I've had like at least 60 to age out of here, 60 to turn 18 and transition into independent living and do well, but a few, I mean, like, when you have to leave here, because of other things, I want you to clearly understand that it's because of you, and I always try to have that conversation, because I don't believe in you leaving here saying, oh, Mr. Davis kicked me out, because it's never a kick out. I don't kick out kids. I didn't come into this to bring a kid in and then kick you out. There's an agreement we have. I need you to do your part, and I'm going to do mine. And I said, I'm going to do mine. I'm going to always go beyond with mine. I don't need you to go beyond. I just need you to meet me right there. But there's some kids who can, who get it, and get that approach, and they work it, and they come through. I've seen the worst I've had a couple of ones who have been in, I can't tell you how many homes, come here and just really turn their life around. I've had some kids that I would get like 13 and they want to start smoking weed and everything. And I'd be like, hey, I can't have a 13-year-old in the South smoking weed, And I say, hey, and they can't stop. So we make a decision. And then around 15, 16, they start acting out a little bit. And the first place they say they want to come back to is here. And I would give them a chance. And those kids that I gave a chance to, every single one of them aged out of this house. So I always felt like there was something planted that they knew was real, that they went out and did their thing, and they were ready. When they felt like they were ready to get on the right track, they knew where to come. Well, they would tell their case manager, Mr. Davis have any home in any space in his home? They would be the ones advocating for their placement, and I always thought that was just like, well, and every kid that happened to, I would always give a chance, because my mom works with me in the home, and a lot of times she'd be like, you letting them go? I said, yeah, I have to let them come back, because obviously they got it. Sometimes it takes you going out there and realizing that, what, all these foster homes I've been in, the one person I could say has been tried to be consistent is Mr. Davis. So I feel like they connect and they wake up to that. So then they come back, and that's the same thing, the runaway, the behaviors. I mean, I understand. I tell them, I say, hey, I know you're frustrated. I haven't walked in your shoes, but I've been in this field long enough to kind of feel that, you're angry, you're carrying all this, but until you let that go, and focus on trying to better your life and take advantage, like how I heard you say, like foster care save you, like you can make this something you regret forever, and you get off of blaming anybody for it. Just thank God that when you come, you come into a place, or you come into a home where there's somebody who can take you and willing to work with you and treat you as if you're their own child and help you throughout this journey. I know there's some other issues, emotional issues that, you're gonna have to work out with therapy and everything, but as far as, you don't have to worry about being safe here. You're going to be safe. You're going to be well taken care of, fed well and everything. So, that thing you can just, let go and just kind of like, just free yourself of all those things, especially of whatever it was used to, because a lot of kids are open up about what they went through in their experiences, no food, no this or that, those things you don't have to worry about. But I do know for all kids, there's no place like home. So I don't care how bad home was. Everybody wants to go back home. And, I try to help them understand that, right now you got to focus on what's best for you going forward. And if home is there, in time, maybe you can, either reunify if that's the goal, or, when you get older and you understand things better, you can go back there. That's how I've been able to work through like a lot of the behaviors and everything with the teenagers. And I wouldn't say it's been perfect all the time. It has not. No. But, like I love to focus on, because I believe that, like I said, there was several that came back. Those are the ones I always talk about, because my goodness, if you can because there are some cases where none would come back, but there were some that came back and aged out. So I like to talk about it, to know that there's always hope out there, and there's some kid that, as much as you think that they have a deaf ear, they're really listening and taking it in and watching, because I'm a firm believer, like I tell even foster parents I work with, you gotta, not just talk it, but you gotta walk it, because they're watching you more than you realize. I'll pause there.
And that's so great, and I kind of think about my story when you say as those deaf ears and so forth. I had got called by my judge. I mentioned this for the listeners. You've heard this before, but I got called by my judge, a menace to society. I had done things from reality programs, boot camp programs, scared straight programs, and so forth. But I had been through so much at a young age, I numbed out. I had numbed out. So nothing that anybody could do to unravel that until I decided to choose to make a difference in my life. And there were so many people that tried to be parents, and so forth, and it just did not work out. And I found myself in the system. And when I found myself in the system, it wasn't like a consistent, those behaviors continued on. Weirdly, the structure that was in the system helped me, better myself. There was no kind of structure at home, and I'm not saying there wasn't completely any, but the structure that I needed to be able to calm down and rationalize and process things that I had been through wasn't able to be provided. I entered into the system. My mom had several strokes at that time. My dad was wherever to be found. My sister tried to do what she could, and she was young too, and we bumped heads several times. And my brothers had their own things going on and so forth with their lives. And it just was a lot of dysfunction and unknowing. So when I say like the system, it sucked. It really did suck. I experienced re-traumatization when I went into the system, but luckily with resiliency and perseverance, I made it through it. I changed a lot of people's minds. I did listen to things that people were saying to me. I utilize them now. I remember something that somebody said to me when I was like 12, and I was in a residential facility. It was a guy. He used to say, "Do you hear me or are you listening? Do you have an audio or a video? So like, and that cracked me up. And then I had a staff that used to always use sports analogies to kind of explain stuff. So I remember moments, and I remember those things, and all those moments helped me develop a loaf of bread. I used to say like they all left breadcrumbs or seeds and so forth. And when I got to a place where I decided to choose life, I decided to choose myself, I decided to choose to be better than what had happened to me and what will happen to me, and not reduce myself to it. It opened up a lot of different doors for myself, mentally, physically, and just life-wise. But as you see, like, I was one of those teenagers, that, was considered bad, had behavior issues and so forth. And all I can say is that, what you've kind of explained, by giving them love, by giving them a stable place, by giving them consistency, by starting those dialogues soon as they get into your household as a foster parent, right off the gate, communicating and, being willing to compromise, not being willing to be just like a militant, like, hey, this is my foster home, it's gonna go like I'm willing to meet you, and stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure it was many, conversations you had where it was very real. And you like, I don't know if I'm the person to really have this conversation for opening up to me. So let's talk about it.
Absolutely.
So that's awesome, and I hope, that Travis' story kind of resonates with you guys that are listening. I kind of want to dive into this next step. COVID has happened, and I know you are doing a lot of different things now with life and so forth. How has you handled? You're still fostering, right?
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, how have you handled fostering work, you know, and all these different things throughout COVID? How has that been?
It's been quite challenging. Just working with the kids. Right now I have two kids, and they're both 11 years old. Uh, and just first, of course, educating them on safety and everything, and practicing social distance, and you know being aware of all the protocols and doing everything you can to protect yourself. I mean, thank God, and I knock on wood that my home was not a home that was affected in any way throughout this. But I know many homes that were. Serving as the president of our local foster parent association, a lot of homes. I mean, there were homes where everybody. There were homes where we lost foster parents, and things like that. So we've gone through a lot. I mean, and what it taught me early on, because normally, like, I mean, I can be licensed for 5, but long ago I just decided, because I felt like I'm at the end where I just really want to be more like support for foster parents, and just kind of do that. And in addition to the local FAPA, I'm on the state FAPA board as well. So I'm kind of busy, and then full-time job, group home, fostering. It's just a whole lot. I just hate to even hear it, but and I was down to one kid for a while, and I think in the last 3 months, it's been like maybe 2 months now, I got the second kid. Because during COVID, I just wanted to keep my numbers down, because I didn't want kids that were in and out, and had a lot of things going on, because I didn't want to put myself at risk. And I just encourage people to just keep on, and just educating and talking to the kids. And through the association, we have, like, even tonight, like later on at 8 o'clock, we have a Zoom for our teens. We had Zoom meetings constantly with our teens, and we have Zoom meetings for our younger kids and the parents as well. We have nurses come on, we have doctors come on, and just educate folks on the protocols. And of course, we have connections with getting all the PPE and stuff out to our parents and everything. So just education and just being aware of it all, and and just still staying connected, because our people need encouragement. We got to know that life goes on beyond this, because there were moments where I didn't know. Like, I reached some dark moments where I was like, oh my God, like, what is this? Like, what is this? Like, I was like, and I got at a very low moment. I didn't stay there alone, because, with my faith, I was like, no, I can't stay there. Because when I started, I felt it coming on. I was like, no, this is not me. Why am I feeling like this? So, that's why I always believe in, God always have those folks that you're connected to that offer that inspiration and motivation and encouragement that you need to keep on. Because, as much as I'm usually that person giving, I got to a point where I needed to receive it. And thank God there were people, there to give it, and, I'm thankful for that. That's why, like, I believe in the association with, for foster parents, because foster parents need a lot of support. A lot of times your first instinct when, going back, just jumping back to the problems, most foster parents want kids out, and I tell them, hey, no. A lot of times kids are acting out for this reason, and we need to lean on each other. Sometimes that kid probably just need a break. Sometimes kids get, and I'm sure some of the listeners, if you were in foster care, sometimes you just get sick of the foster parent mouth, because I know I'm a talker. And so, and I know some of my kids, I've had kids tell me, like, Mr. Davis, yeah, you talk too much, Mr. Davis, sometimes. And I listen. So, even now, like I tell people, doing this all these years, I've learned new styles. I've modified my style. Like, even with my kids, like, sometimes I'll address my kids Mr., or sir, or this or that. I give that higher level of respect, because that's what I want in return. So it's sort of like, and I've seen, like, it works. I don't know, maybe because I'm working with a younger population, they receive it more than the teens would. But I took feedback that I got from my teens, and I'm applying it to what I'm doing right now. So and that's what I got, and it really helps me with what I'm doing. Like now in my approach, because I realized over time you can't keep doing the same thing. And I tell parents this all the time. A lot of times you got to look at your style. You can't foster like you parented. You got to make some modifications. You got to kind of look at what you're doing and what could possibly be going wrong, and listen to the kids, because they'll tell you. If you open, create a dialogue or create a place of comfort where they feel they can tell you, trust me, they'll tell you. Or just have them say, hey, write something down that you feel I should change or whatever, and they'll do it. Trust me, they'll do it. It helps. we do that sometimes in the meeting. Like I tell them, hey, try it. And I've had parents come back and say, you know what, that really worked. One of my kids said, I talk so loud, they think I'd be screaming and it scares them. I'm like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, tone it down, tone it down, because we don't know what life they had at home, and they're reliving their trauma. And a lot of times, like sometimes I'll see it even when I see parents interacting with the kids. If I see a kid that look kind of nervous by their foster parent, I always go personally and say, hey, is everything okay? And we start reaching out and targeting the kid and kind of trying to get them involved in some of the activities that we have going on, because we do a lot with our kids. They go on camps, they go to DC, they go everywhere. We do a lot. So I'm just trying to get them out. And I find that especially teens, you got to offer them something. You just can't, a lot of people who foster teens just feel like, oh, they'll entertain themselves. They really want to be a part. They don't want to do it all the time, but, kind of leave that door open for them. Hey, we planning to do this on this day. We would love for you to come. Sometimes say it like that. I know I'm just kind of going there, but yeah.
I would even think, when you like kind of give them that distance, as far as, they entertain themselves, that leaves the door open for them to be like, oh, well, they ain't really care anyway what I do. So let me miss a curfew, let me go do this. Let me, go, so that creates that space for there to have disruptions in the foster home and, behavior issues and so forth. Yeah. So what I hear you saying, is, be inclusive, provide, opportunities, I even hear you saying, challenge those teenagers and those young people.
Because they'll resist, but they really want to be a part. Yeah. It's just being defiant, like they really want it. I've seen it, like, but they sometimes want that extra, like, hey, you should come with us. I really would like for you to come. And that's hard for some of us to say, because we like, you either want to come or you don't.
Right.
I'm from that school, like, hey, you don't want to come? Okay, no problem. But sometimes you can tell, like, they really want to come, but, and I had to learn that.
Want to feel wanted, want to, feel like they're a part.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, your story is so unique and special, and I'm pretty sure that, there's a lot of other foster, parents and, social workers and so forth that kind of, may have some similar, similarities to you. But before I get into my last couple of questions, I just have one more question, just so, us and the listeners, and even myself can get a better understanding. What does the demographic and the dynamic of foster care look like in the state of Florida? Like, is it just abuse and neglect? Is it, you see a lot of youth come in because of drugs? Like, what would you say are the leading causes for removals? And I'm even going to challenge you, as a person that's been working in this field and doing this for a while, if you could say one thing that could help with prevention to kind of keeping those families together, if you had a magic wand, what would what would that be? So those two things.
Okay. All right. As far as the abuse or the maltreatment that leads to a lot of kids coming to care right now, all aligns with neglect. It's like neglect is like everything, and, neglect sometimes is just failure to protect, like, mom didn't protect, a child from, a victim, from a perpetrator or something like that. It's just always neglect seems to be the heart, like the number one area. I have a lot of friends that are PIs today and, administrators in the PI system. And that's what they, constantly say, everything is like, parents are leaving kids unsupervised, have meet a man and let him come in the house and he'll abuse one of the kids or something like that. There's not so much a lot of physical right now, as much as we used to see. And along with neglect, a lot of, sexual abuse, which, a lot of times is because the parent was neglectful and left their child, in the care of somebody they shouldn't have left them in the care of. And that's what we see a lot of. And, if I had to, oftentimes, and I've been saying this for years, and anybody know me, know I stand on this, prevention, it's all about a lot of times education. And I always say, like, having been in the church all my life, the churches are like the cornerstone for getting this education to the people. In some kind of way, there's somewhat of a disconnect. There's some churches who have their own agenda and they don't want to get involved or with the foster care system. They just want to do their thing and continue on whatever services they offer, and they have their set agenda and that's what they stick to. And I always say, like I even tell the system at large, hey, we have to make that connection. We have to make that connection. I don't know if you guys have a place called One Church, One Child, but we have that organization in the state of, they're in Tallahassee, and they kind of connect throughout all the way down through all over the state of Florida. And I don't know if they're national yet. I don't know, but I know they're based out. Office is stationed in Tallahassee. And what they try to do is try to pair churches up or connect with churches. I was like, somebody heard my cry, and they've been out there trying to get churches to connect. Matter of fact, they'll come down to different regions and try to host like not like a community education session where they try to educate church members and even the community at large, that, hey, there's a world out there, because, what people don't see with their eyes, they don't know. Like how I was saying earlier about even persons with disabilities, people know foster care is out there, but it don't really have a look. You know what I'm saying? You don't even know that there could be a foster home across the street. You might notice every now and then, there are different kids over there, but sometimes you don't really know, because even for me where I stay, I don't go and tell all my neighbors, because a lot of times my neighbors are not, they change up a lot. The one who lived directly next to me or used to, they knew. But I just think that education, and I always say the church is one of those places, but hey, if we can't get into churches, we know kids go to school. We can get into school. We can have satellite offices in the school. Granted, PTA, parents don't go to PTA meetings. So, it's like, and I always tell people we just have to become creative, some kind of way to get these messages out. And sometimes you got to offer people something. It's just sad you have to kind of do that. But, we know, and even as foster parents, I've learned this, and it just makes me crazy that a lot of our parents, they love like raffles. They love giveaways. I'm like, huh? Like what? Like, I'm like, raffles, giveaways. Yes, they care about that kind of stuff. And I didn't think I froze. Did I freeze?
Yeah, just a little bit. I can still hear you.
I don't know if you can hear me. Okay.
I can still hear you.
You can still hear me. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, they care about that kind of stuff. But I always say, if we could it's all about education, because even when you get to the heart of, why kids came into care and you look at everything, a lot of times it's the lack of education of that parent, or they lack, of course, the protective capacities on what it takes to protect their child. Because some parents think it's okay, oh, that's my friend, and it's okay, no, your friend out there smoking weed on the porch and you got them in there, guess what happens when people use drugs? Their judgment is impaired. Different things happen, they become somebody else, right. So you've opened that door, and you put your child at risk. And, a lot of times when the system come in and they have to check out things, check out who's staying at home, that's when everything comes out. And, a lot of times parents are not ready to make that decision, mom not ready to leave, or she, financially not ready to go get her own place. And she, just she's connected or in love with this man and she don't want to let go. So a lot of times I find that that's like the biggest maltreatment that we have here with our kids. And, parents just, after a while they get comfortable with, the kids being away. I don't think you can ever remove a parent's love. I won't question that. I never would, but I believe a parent always loved their child. But there are some parents who've gotten used to, that break, and you can tell by their actions, because I'm a firm believer, that's your child, you fight with everything that you have to go after to get your child back home. Right. I mean, if it means you coming down to the courthouse, just hanging out or going somewhere saying, hey, can I take these classes sooner? Can I do this? You be a little assertive. You don't have to let the court control it. You can step it up and do what you need to do. When I was a case manager, I always told parents that, yeah, you have to do 6 weeks of this or whatever, but you can speed it up. You take the initiative. You show that I need my child back home, and I don't want to wait 6 months to a year. I need my child home, and I'm willing to do what I need to do. Take a leave of absence from your job. You can get a job later. Do what you need to do to get your child back. Right. And you'll see that with some, very few, but I don't know. But I always say education, and that's my thing. Like, we need to get it out there because people don't quite know.
Definitely. You gave us a lot of different nuggets there. And that's just like, I just think about that, that education piece. There's a lot of miseducation around foster care and lack of education. You know, what I see here up in the Midwest, we have, legislators to, people in power to even just the community having that um, miseducation or, misinformation or, or lack of education, you know.
Yes.
And the thing is, we all watch TV, so we all see what TV provides us as an example for foster care. And it doesn't really provide the best
Nothing.
actual
Yeah.
definition of
Yeah.
foster care and what it
It
is. I know a lot of people still assume foster care to be in the same boat as delinquent, and those are two different things and stuff like that. So there's a lot of education that needs to happen nationally, and I would even dare to say globally, because foster care has been here for a while. Like I mentioned on one of my other podcasts, foster care started off being with the orphan train, and this is way back when, and we have advanced to this system that sadly, I say, and this is my opinion, a system that has been outdated and is a tad bit broken, and sadly, there's a lot of people falling through the gaps in the gray areas of it. But I believe that with reform and with action with the community and the workers that are in it, we can make that difference between it. I don't know if you cut out here, I kind of lost you. But I think I'm getting you back here a little bit, but yeah, so with that, education is a big piece, not just, with you guys down there in Florida, but, even up here in the Midwest. And I would like to see, because I work with the National Foster Youth Institute on a lot of different initiatives and just pushing things and educating and helping young alumni become advocates for themselves. But I started advocating at 15, been doing this since now I'm 24. So it's been about, 10 years, that people been hearing my voice about this, but I appreciate that. I have a couple last things that, I want to ask you. And that is, as a person that work on the social work side, what advice could you give? And then as a foster parent, what advice could you give? And to those foster youth, young and old, what could you give as advice?
As a social worker, wow, I would say, I want to say get some rest, but get some rest because, the reality of the work, and this is what hurts me so much because there are people who come into the profession with that genuine heart. They want to help. They want to save everybody. They want to, give their all. I was one of those people. Like, I lived when I was case manager, supervisor. I lived my job. Everything was my job. And I'm talking about like 7 days a week. I always felt like I needed to be close with my foster parents because they were my lifesaver, and if I could work with them, I wouldn't get that call saying, hey, I need you to come pick up Johnny or Sally or whatever. I wouldn't get that call. Or even if they were ready to, say they no longer wanted to work with the kid, I can say, well, hey, Miss Jones or Miss whatever, can you just give me a couple of days and we work on this? Because we had that kind of relationship. Always, I would tell any social worker, have a strong, positive relationship with your foster parent. Be kind of understanding because they're dealing with a whole lot. And a lot of times, as I say, I still continue to learn as a foster parent. All these years, I don't know it all. I don't. That's why I still like to stay connected to hear and see what's out there, what's going on. So one key is definitely, your foster parents could be like, they're like, we should be in sync. Like we supposed to be on the same page at all times. Communicate with them, respect them. Because a lot of times, some social workers tend to just feel like, they represent the system and is what they say and no regard for the foster parent. So please treat that foster parent like like their valuable asset and their valuable part or member of the team. Please, I mean, and just time management, you got to work on that, because sometimes there are cases that can consume so much of your time, and you get so deeply involved that you don't realize, before you know it, you've been working on the Jackson case all week long, and you got like several other cases here. So work on your time management skills and do what you can to kind of make sure you're touching and giving each case the fair time that it should have, so that it can move forward, because a lot of times that delay things moving sometime, because if the social worker is not making the proper referrals and doing whatever they need to do to make the connections, it kind of just delay everything. Communicate with the parents. Don't view the parents as being bad folks. Just, they made some mistakes, or, they needed more education and more training, and they probably didn't have it and probably had a rough upbringing as well. So don't rule them out, because a lot of times I've seen what social workers just, oh, you're the bad parent. You want to let this happen. Don't let, be non-judgmental. Don't be judgmental. Just respect them as, who they are as the parent. But that's what I say for my social workers, and hang in there, because we need genuine good people to do the work. And I just feel like a lot of times the good folks burn out early, because they give so much so fast, until when there's nothing left, it's like, oh, I got to get out of this, or I got to take a break, And I was one of those people. I would burn out, and then I, went back, and, I'm still connected. So I'm always like, I actually go and I speak with new case managers being trained to come into the system, just to educate them on some things. And I've seen there's been a shift in our system with social workers and foster parents connecting, and caseworkers or social workers having the respect for foster parents and foster parents in turn, because there's some, I can say it honestly, being a foster parent and being over the association, there are some mean foster parents. There are some folks who shouldn't really be fostering, but they do it, and we need those beds. As long as they treating the kids right and not causing hurt, harm. And when I say shouldn't be, it's because they don't want to surrender and really be a genuine part of the team. It's not about, safety, because when it comes to that, if there's any question about, kids being safe in your home, I'll do what I can to get you shut down. But, it's just that their personality, they're not willing to break or bend. And a lot of times that's that old school foster parent who, I raised 10 kids, I know how to do it, and it's going to go this way, and just trying to get them to kind of, hey, you got to compromise. These are not your kids in terms of how you want to raise them. You're part of a system, and you have to comply with the system and what they require. You talked about with as far as was it foster kid? You wanted me to some advice to foster kids, or?
So it was social workers, and then foster parents, and then foster.
Oh, foster parent. Okay, I don't know why I put foster kid. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if I kind of touched on it, but I'll say more about my foster parents. Just being patient, being understanding, and know that that kid that's coming into your home, you don't want to know. The allegation is not everything that child experienced. So a lot of times you just can't. Don't try not to be judgmental. Look at it as a kid. Here's an opportunity for you to impact a life, and you want to do everything that you can in a positive manner to impact this life, because this life one day gonna grow up and become an adult, and what you pour into them will make a difference in their life and how they see things. So do what you can, and if you have a kid that, like I always say, going back to a kid that you can't work with, and you've tried everything, don't give up so fast, but try everything. When you feel like you've exhausted everything under the sun, then you make that decision. And I think you should have a conversation with the kids so that they understand, because no kid should leave your house like not knowing, oh, they don't like me, oh, they put me out. No, we should have a conversation, and you should know what's happening. You can't seem to meet me halfway, or you can't seem to do your part, and it's becoming a problem, or it's impacting other kids in the home because they're doing their part, and you're not doing yours, and it's not right. Sometimes you might want to even have a family conference with everybody, because a lot of times that helps. I mean, I used to do that. When I had multiple kids, we would sit around. Wednesdays was our day to sit at the table. Every kid had a time they would cook, and we sit there at the table, eat, talk, and have a dialogue about things, and any problems they had in the home, or even problems they had with me. We talked about it, we addressed it there. Because I always tell kids, or like, there shouldn't be no surprises. Like, if you have an issue, if there's something you feel like I'm not doing, feel free to talk to me about it. I mean, but if you feel like you can't, of course, go to your case manager, and hopefully, they'll be respectful about it and come talk to me about it or whatever, and we just go from there. Because I just think that everybody, there just need to be respect on every side. We just come together to do what we can for the better of everybody, you know.
Mm-hmm. And lastly, for those foster youth and alumni, what advice could you give them?
Continue to come back and inspire and motivate, because the younger group, the group behind you guys, they need that. They need more inspiration. They need hope. They need to know, like, it's not all hope is not lost. I'm not just an ex, that there is hope for me to rise above. I mean, like, and we're pushing to build that even more in Miami-Dade County, because we have kids that, are doing a whole, we have lawyers now. We have all kinds of, different professions, kids who've gone on and taken advantage of the free tuition and, and everything and gone on. And those people, I'm so glad they're kind of coming back, and we're trying to build that network and have them connect with the younger youth for inspiration purposes. And it matters. It makes a difference, because a lot of times, as like I was saying earlier, I always try to tell them to look beyond and just start planning your life. Like right now, your life, you're never too young to start planning what you want to do and designing your life. It's no, don't live in what you've gone through, and don't live on, what you're in terms of the system. Just see it as you have a life, and there's a God up above that's willing to help you and put you in the right place with the right people, the right support, the right network to help you get to wherever it is you want to go. Start drafting that. I always tell even the young ones, 11, start planning what your life look like. What is it that you want to do? You want to go to college? Okay, let's talk about college. And we need to get back to having that dialogue and that conversation, because I don't see that happening a lot. People usually wait till they get way in high school. I think it starts early, because the sooner you start talking about it, it stays with you, and also connecting kids to whatever. You have a kid say, hey, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a teacher, I want to be this, connecting them with somebody. Like, we have a big organization here. It's called the 5,000 Role Models. Like, I love that program. I mean, I wanted to volunteer with that program, but I don't have the time. So I feel like I do a better job here in the home. So, I always tell kids, even when I have kids that are in that program, I tell them stick with it. That's a program that stay with you throughout, even when you graduate from college. They see you all the way off. Every kid that graduates high school gets a scholarship. And that's in addition to everything else that you might get. So always making the connection and network. And I just feel like that's a source of strength, because, like you said, and I heard you say early on, like, people said things and things stay with you. Like, you might turn your ear, a deaf ear, but you hear what people are saying. And, the more, seeds are planted in you, we don't know when they're going to uproot and when they come manifest, so I'm a firm believer, like, let's put everything we can into the kids, and hopefully somewhere down the road, hey, and I've seen it, trust me. I mean, we just had the graduation when it was August. I mean, a kid I thought the only thing I would be seeing him on the news, his name Fred, Fred went on, graduated high school, and now in college, and now got a job. He just called me the other day. Mr. Davis, yeah, I got the job. I'm making $18 an hour. I'm like, whoa, and this is a kid, and he had tattoos all over his face, and he been working, trying to get those wiped out, and, just a whole new mindset. And he just talked different. I'm like, wow. I was kind of worried about Fred, but I'm so glad he made it, and he, was thanking me, and all that. So I said, like, that's why I tell people, like, this work is not in vain, and, what you do is impactful, and it make a difference. Sometimes you may not see it. You may not even be here on this world to see it, but, what you've done, that's why it's so important. You don't take your job for granted, especially for, the young advocates and the young, folks that are trying to come back. Don't take it for granted. Share those experiences and be transparent with folks, with the kids, and let them see, that they can rise above it.
Thank you. Like, I just, I'm inspired, I'm motivated, and it's just even more so, I'm glad to be able to call you my cousin,
Yes. Same here. No, same
yeah.
here. No, trust
Yes.
me. Yes.
And if you don't mind me sharing, there was a moment in my experience that, I was communicating with Travis and so forth, and I was trying to be able to get where he was so he could foster me, and things really didn't, work out that way, and so forth. But I'm glad to be standing on this side, and I've said this with a couple other people that I've had on here. I had a couple of my old staff, was that you get to see me on this side of things. It was, I struggled a lot, and I let, the things that happened to me, cloud me out. And for years, I was fighting with myself and with the world. And I'm glad to be on the other side of things and be able to be that voice, and be able to provide a platform and be able to advocate and be able to mentor and role model for those who have not yet turned around to where I'm at. That is why I'm here. That is why Resilient Voices and Beyond is here. And this is just only the beginning. And, my goal is to be able to open a foundation from this, but I wanted to start small with this podcast and to be able to develop this platform up and to be able to provide a space for foster parents, for, alumni, for foster youth, for caseworkers, for social work students, and the list goes on, because it's a wide network. It's a tree of people that support this system. And I wanted to be able to hear the voices behind it, so the world can see. And this is my way of being able to educate and reinstill, what is child welfare? What is foster care? What does it mean to advocate properly? What does it mean to mentor properly? What does it mean to foster, properly? Because we talked about some of those people that may not, should not be fostering, but maybe they could be doing something else. So like I said on one of my other podcasts, is that you may have a heart for this community. That doesn't mean that you have to foster. That we need foster parents, but you can mentor. You
can mentor. Absolutely.
You can be a tutor. There's so many different avenues that you can do and stuff like that.
True.
Just make sure that you check yourself, and you check your why, and you really examine that before you invest into a child or teenager's life. Because once you do that, they're already invested, and some of them at that door, they're looking for you to mess up or to prove to them that society is how they see it. So you have that unique opportunity. And then it's typically, sometimes I can say for myself, it's that one person that I'm waiting for to ruin that for me, so I can shut down, so I can have a reason to self-sabotage, so I can make an excuse out of that. And I'm not saying that's every foster youth, but that's, the scenario for some of us, so being a foster parent, it is not a light job. It is not for the faint of heart, so just know that, we need teen homes. We need foster parents in general. We also need mentors. We need role models. We need parent mentors, because what we see in the child welfare system is generational, so if we could get mentors and role models for those parents, we wouldn't even see those kids in the system.
Kids won't have to stay in the system so long. They can get home.
Right. So with that being said, because you guys know I'm a talker, and I could go on. This is Resilient Voices and Beyond. I'm glad to have you, Travis. It's great to see you and to be able to share this time with you. You guys out there, have a great night. Have a great evening. Have a great day. Whenever you are listening to this, please stay safe. Wear a mask. Get vaccinated. And so forth. It is really crazy out there. Do all that you can to just stay safe. And this is me speaking, and you guys have a good one.
Right.